Yes, sir. Welcome back to Talking Nets, episode 75. It is Tuesday morning, just after 9 a.m. Keith McPherson and Hudson Flynn joining you to talk about the Nets. Everybody's talking Nets. What a time. Hudson Flynn, how'd you sleep after that win last night? That felt like a playoff game. How you doing this morning, bro?
Man, I feel like I could have sat down and watched that whole game again, start to finish. That was how great that game was. That's game of the year type energy, playoff type energy. There was some grittiness, some grind, a little bit of pushing and shoving, some talking after the whistles. That's that's what this Nets team is built for. We're not just scoring. We're not just, flashy basketball. We have that grit. We have that grind. You heard Bruce Brown yelling after the whistle, demanding his respect. And man, it's just crazy to think, we went from just 2 episodes ago, we were, talking about 2 losses, what does this Nets team need to do? And now 2 episodes later, here we are, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, hopefully for this game against the Cavs, undefeated in the James Harden era, 2-0 with him on the team, 3-0 since the trade. It feels right. It feels good. And man, it's going to keep rolling like that. Because if we can do that to the Bucks without any practice, without James Harden being fully integrated into the team, without Kyrie Irving, without our 3 roster spots full, what are we going to do with all that completed? I mean, we're already beating the best in the league, with those things lacking. And now here we are going to have those spots filled, going to have those things fixed. The sky's the limit the sky is really the limit for this team. And it's just great to see.
Man, what a time. We were just talking about the bubble Nets, the no-name Nets. We were just in the NBA bubble talking about Jamal Crawford, Tyler Johnson, Dante Hall. It's interesting, man. I just had some sounds coming in there. I'm happy because the universe is on our side. The Nets are 9-6, and the 5th seed in the East currently, and everybody's talking about James Harden, scary hours. We'll talk about that in a minute. We dropped some merch. John Boy Media, we put out the We Got Harden shirts, the beard with the Coogee in it, the Nets world, the globe with the basketball and the Nets world logo on it. And then the last one was, this is not 2013. This is 7/11/13. Check out John Boy Media's shop. If you're watching on YouTube, you could probably see that mug right there, drinking my coffee out of the Talking Nets mug. Hey, the brand is strong. And this week, if you want to get down with John Boy Media, go to shop.johnboymedia.com. Enter the code WINTER, right? Code WINTER gets you 25% off all our winter sweaters. My personal favorite is the Jake Sucks winter sweater. There's also some Talking Yanks sweaters on there. Some of you guys listen to me on Pinstripe Strong. We've got a winter sweater on there. So for this week only, it's a promotion to get these winter sweaters out of there, and you can get them for cheap, 25% off. The code, again, is WINTER, WINTER, WINTER. That's shop.johnboymedia.com. And while you're on there, we just released some hoodies. So the T-shirts came out with all the Nets logos. Shout out to Matt, our designer. Basically, my ideas that I typed out to him and explained, and then he made them come to life. And now they're on hoodies. The T-shirts went out a couple days ago. The hoodies just went out today. So go to shop.johnboymedia.com, look for some hoodies, and then also use the code WINTER to get 25% off your winter sweaters. All right, now that we got that out of the way, something I wanted to talk about today, Hudson, because what we're seeing with this Nets team is just NBA fans, James Harden fans, KD fans, Kyrie fans, just basketball fans across the globe, not just in this country, internationally. Bandwagon fans are welcome here. This is a safe space for people that are just getting into basketball, just getting into the Nets. And I have a big issue with this word right here, casual, right? Because I see so many people on NBA Twitter talk about casual fans. Oh, y'all some casuals. Oh, these casual fans, too many casual fans. Newsflash, you didn't become a diehard just by turning the TV on the first time. Everybody starts off as a casual fan. We want to grow the game. We want this to be a global game. We want to have the most fans. So whether you're a bandwagon fan that just said, hey, I've been looking for a team to root for, I'm going to root for the Nets. Whether you're a casual fan that doesn't know the inside X's and O's, fouls, technicalities of the game, little nuances of the game, or if you're a diehard former hooper, coach, somebody that really knows the game, hey, everybody's welcome here. Talking Nets, obviously we're a John Boy Media brand. John Boy Media is a baseball company first, and now we're expanding into other sports, the NBA. We're proud to be John Boy Media's leading NBA coverage, and we're proud to have a lot of people checking us out. Hudson, what are your thoughts on bandwagon fans versus casual fans versus diehard fans? Because honestly, I don't think anyone gets any points for calling out a casual fan. I think you look lame calling someone out as a casual fan.
Listen, we don't discriminate. I remember the days, and I know you remember the days where you would get laughed at for being a Nets fan, where people would, would be like, what are you doing being a Nets fan? Or you would hedge. You'd be like, I'm a Nets fan, but I watch the whole NBA. Or I'm a Nets fan, but I'm a LeBron fan. I'm a Nets fan, but I'm a Kobe fan. All those things. Now it's just Nets fan first, second, third. It's a new era for the Nets. And listen, you want to be a casual, you want to be a bandwagon. I don't care. No one in this Nets community cares. No one's going to discriminate. But what we don't like are the NBA fans, the fans of other teams, those casual fans coming into our mentions and talking about things that they don't understand. As long as you're not a casual hater, then I've got no problem with you, because the one thing I've noticed, I run the Twitter, during games and not, but as soon as we made that Harden trade, all of a sudden we got Lakers fans in our mention. We got 76ers fans in our mention. We got Clippers fans in our mentions. And I'm just looking around like, so we're a threat now. You thought it wasn't going to work. You're saying that's not going to work. There's only one ball, no defense, whatever. But privately, the Nets are a threat. The Nets are a threat to the balance of power in the NBA. And we're a threat to that without an all-NBA player in Kyrie Irving. So what's going to happen when that happens? So listen, if there's a time to become a Nets fan, now is the time. Hop on the bandwagon now, because let me tell you, it's getting full.
Yeah, scary hours. They shook. And last thing I'll say about the bandwagons versus casuals versus diehards, we're in New York, and I've been listening to New York sports radio, and it's hard as a Nets fan to listen to New York sports radio talk about the Nets, because all of these guys are Knicks fans. They're not going to give you any true takes. They're not going to they're going to always have that bias. Someone said to me, stop trying to make the Nets a thing. I'm like, I'm not. Like, I've been a Nets fan. It was quiet for us. It's loud now. Listen to Talking Nets. If you're a Nets fan and you want to get into the Nets, you want to listen to two guys that cover the games. Hudson told you he live tweets the games. He's the one clipping the stuff. I would say Twitter is like 80 to 90% Hudson. And then I throw a couple things in there, and then I do the IG and just use my Twitter account to amplify, because I've got double our followers for now. But yeah, rock with us, Talking Nets. That's why we built the brand. We're going to bring other people on. We got the Talking Nets fam, TN fam, the extended Talking Nets family that's growing. We got the Nets Twitter list. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a good time. And I know the Nets are having a good time with these scary hours. And I'm wearing the Kyrie Irving jersey because Kyrie is on the way. Kyrie is coming back. And before we get into the games and before we talk about Kyrie's return, quickly, I wanted to hit a couple things, right? So Kyrie, the saga continues. His name has been in the media the last 2 weeks. That's another thing about New York sports radio. They hate on this guy like crazy. They want to kill him for all the wrong reasons. And unfortunately, Kyrie, I know you got the bread. I know you got the money, but you're going to have to pay a lot of money. And between the fine and the loss of salary, forfeiting 2 game checks, and getting penalized by the NBA, I think the number that I saw was $870,000, $870,000 Kyrie is going to lose from his personal leave, from having the party and being there with no mask and that type of stuff. That's crazy. I know, I understand I understand, like I said, go save the world, Kyrie. You got the power, you got the influence, but almost $1 million. Is that worth almost $1 million to you, Hudson?
Man, I can't even comprehend that much money, let alone make judgments on what it's worth. That's crazy stuff. But listen, we had the news come out yesterday that Kyrie bought George Floyd's family a home. And, he is going out there and he is making a difference and he is saving the world. And even the $50,000 that he got fined, you know what? That's a little bit of a contribution to going out there and saving the world, because 100% of that fine is donated to charities. I think 50% goes to the charity of the NBA choice, and the other 50% goes to the charity of the NBA PA's, or the NBA Players Association's choice. And those are going to be good causes. So listen, Kyrie went out there, he made his difference. But, at the end of the day, like he said, he's an artist and his art form is basketball, and artists don't just give up on their art form. So I expect Kyrie to make his triumphant return against either the Cavs on Wednesday or against the Cavs on Friday, hopefully on Wednesday, because that's going to have a lot of high emotion anyway, because we see the return of two of our former Nets and one of our fan favorites, Jared Allen, and the locker room stealing man himself, Taurean Prince.
Big J, the fro. Hudson clipped the sad picture of Jared Allen on the bench by himself. It was tugging at my heartstrings. And then we hear about Kevin Porter Jr. throwing a Big Mac in the Cavs locker room when he finds out Taurean Prince took his locker. Damn, Taurean Prince coming in taking people's lockers. That's like when you were in class and you come into class one day and they change seats and you're like, yo, what is going on here? I used to sit right here. We can't have class like this. It's funny, man. Kevin Porter Jr., I saw some Nets fans like, can we sign him? I'm like, no, we don't want that problem. He hasn't even been playing.
He's not even playing for the Cavs, the worst team in the NBA. Like, I don't know if we necessarily want him on this Nets team.
No, we don't want him. And back to Kyrie. I wanted to say this about Kyrie. I had a tweet about Kyrie that actually banged off a little bit. I was trying to find the quote, but there's a quote that says, like, if you did something nice for someone and then you went and told everyone about it, you did it for the wrong reasons. And what I love about Kyrie, as I'm wearing his jersey, and if you listen to Talking Nets, I stand Kyrie jersey, Duke ties, and now a net. What I love about Kyrie is he does a lot. We were uncovering stuff this summer about him donating money to the WNBA. We've seen him do food drives. We've seen him just do a bunch of things that pop up in the news, but never on his Instagram, never on his Twitter. You never hear him in an interview telling people about how much he did and how much he contributed. It's always a third party. So we end up hearing about Kyrie buying George Floyd's family a house from Stephen Jackson, I don't know if you guys follow that whole George Floyd thing. It's crazy. Last year seems like so long ago, but it wasn't that long ago that the whole like George Floyd thing happened. And then like yesterday was MLK Day. I felt like yesterday was the most awkward MLK Day. It's like looking at the history and the videos and pictures of Martin Luther King in Washington and thinking about what just went on in Washington, but everybody's forgotten about that. Yay, we got basketball. Kyrie bought George Floyd's family a house, and we would have never heard about it unless Stephen Jackson spoke on it on a podcast. And when that came out, it just again is like the media likes to kill Kyrie for all the wrong reasons. He's done a lot for the community. He's done a lot for people that can't do anything for him back. He's done a lot for people that he knows just need help. And he's not looking for notoriety. He's doing it out of the kindness and goodness of his heart. And that's a solid guy. Kyrie was raised right. And I think that also plays into his chakras and his worldliness and his deep thinking and him realizing, hey, I have the ability to create change, and that ability is more important than my ability to dribble and shoot. Anything else on Kyrie? Because he went also from questionable to out yesterday, which like we started getting pumped because we're like, okay, Kyrie is back. Harden was talking about scary hours, getting them back on the court together. Kyrie, KD, Harden, them getting to practice together. He goes from questionable to out because of conditioning on Monday. What did you think when you heard that? And I'll respond with what I thought.
Well, I don't think it's a conditioning issue. I don't think Kyrie is the kind of athlete to not be able to take a week off and come back in prime shape. What I really think it is the Nets taking their time and knowing that they can take their time with integrating him into this team with James Harden, considering that there was no practices over the weekend. James Harden came in, he has not practiced with the team. Monday through Monday, yesterday, he has not had a single practice with the Brooklyn Nets. He's had shoot arounds, he's had individual workouts, he's had all that, but he has not actually practiced with the full team. And, that's one of the consequences of there being such a tight and condensed schedule, for this season. But, I think that there's some stuff that Nash and, D'Antoni and all these guys want to work on integration and making sure this team is fully ready to go, because, when you add another all NBA player, it's just adding another wrinkle, and you're adding just so many other options that you could do on this team. So I expect it to be, they practice today, and then they can head into this Cavs game against a lesser opponent. No offense, Jared Allen. And we're going to see a situation where they practice today, they get some of that chemistry today, and then they fully solidify that chemistry going into the game tomorrow and Friday, because these are going to be games where you're going to be able to experiment more than you could have in a Bucks game or even in a game against the Magic. So, that's what I'm expecting. And I'm expecting that, after this week finishes, the Kyrie saga, the maskless in the club, all that stuff, that's going to be a distant memory, because Scary Hours is starting.
Woo! Scary Hours. Walk up and live and I see the fetish shower. I got to learn that rap from Meek Mill that I put in the video. But the thing I thought was, okay, Kyrie sees James Harden come back and all this stuff in the news, whatever, or the Harden trade goes down and he plays. Famous Low, shout out to Famous Low, said that Kyrie was probably speeding to the gym when he saw the Harden trade go down. And when I saw that he was questionable, I like the hype that is around that, but I also thought he's questionable. That means he's back or whatever. But I think the Nets, one, are easing him in. Two, the Nets are like, wait. You don't get to just jump back in when you're ready to jump back in. Got to get some practices first, get your win back, get your conditioning. You've missed 7 games now. And I didn't realize that, Harden didn't get to practice, but I guess when you think about it, I thought he practiced Friday before the press conference, or maybe he was just in the facility.
He hadn't cleared his physical, or not all the people in the trade had cleared their physicals. And obviously that's something we're going to get to in a little bit.
So there hasn't been one practice, because we played yesterday, and then we played Saturday. They didn't practice Sunday. They were probably off. Interesting that these guys step on the court and play like that. It just shows you the level. James Harden and KD are God level basketball players. Their IQ is ridiculous. Harden can get everybody involved, obviously create his own shot. And then KD, the first night with Harden on the court, going for 42. We'll get into the games in a second. We're getting there. I want to talk about Caris right now. No more about Harden. I think I will say this. I did enjoy the press conference, but that 90-minute delay on the press conference was wild. And I thought that was kind of like the Brooklyn Nets taking a jab at the reporters, because I even saw KD in one of the post games. He's like, there's way more people in here now talking about the Zoom call with 94 people versus the local Nets beat writers. And now the whole national ESPN, Sports Illustrated, Bleacher Report, everybody wants in. And I liked 2 things from the press conference. Obviously, they asked, I think Nets Daily asked Harden about his conditioning or, his weight. And he said he was great. And that was the clippable moment. And then also someone asked him, would he still be able to play without the ball in his hands? Or there was some question about what kind of basketball player he is. And James Harden kind of looked at him like I'm James Harden. Yeah, of course I'll be able to make plays and play. So shout out to Harden. That press conference was legendary. I appreciated him making the national media wait 90 minutes before he got on. But quickly, let's talk about Caris. I want to send prayers out to Caris LeVert. How crazy is it that Caris dropped 43 points last week with a kidney issue, and this got uncovered because he gets traded and has to pass a physical for the Pacers. This is something that nobody knew about. It could have been life-saving. I think they said he had a small
mass on his kidney.
And I don't know exactly what that means. A small mass on his left kidney. So he's not playing yet. He hasn't cleared the physical yet. But who knew? I love Karras. I can't wait to see him play. We'll probably clip up some of his Pacer highlights whenever that time comes. But sending prayers out to Karras LeVert. I hope he's good. I hope this maybe stopped something or uncovered something prematurely or in the early stages, because this guy's got a lot of NBA games ahead of him. He's a young guy. He's a superstar talent. And everything happens for a reason. I'm a universe guy. I believe in everything happening for a reason, exactly how it's supposed to. This trade was written in the stars. And through this trade, it sucks to lose a guy like Karras. But thinking about the person and his health first, at least, we got this information, or he got this information somehow. I feel like, they weren't going to give him a physical if he stayed with the Nets all year. This might have been something we find out in the summer, and it might be too late.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you said it all. Prayers up to Karras, and it's weird to say, that we're really thankful that this trade happened from Karras's perspective, because like you said, you don't know if that doesn't get discovered. Maybe it doesn't even get discovered until it becomes a problem, right? And things, the universe works in mysterious ways, and things shake out the way they're going to shake out. And obviously, we're glad that it shook out that way from a basketball perspective. But also, like you said, we might not have known about this, and now we do. And hopefully they caught it early. They said it was a small mass. Obviously, Karras put out a statement. He said he was grateful for all the medical team at the Pacers and all that. But obviously, we're just hoping that Karras will come back, stronger than ever, and he's coming back in a good situation. So I'm excited to see him play, because that might be a playoff matchup that the Nets run into. We're not going to see Jared Allen in the playoffs, but Karras and the Pacers in the playoffs. They got Domantas Sabonis going off real hard. So I don't know. I think if he can come back, he's going to be making his return to the Barclays in the playoffs in a Pacers uniform, wearing that, the gold and blue, the maize and blue, just like he did in his Michigan days.
Man, speak it into existence. A playoff matchup between the Nets and the Pacers with Karras LeVert wearing his old college colors. That'd be cool. All right, let's get into these games. Last 10 minutes of the pod or so. Let's talk about the Magic game. Game 14 out of 72. And 90 minutes before tip-off, James Harden is cleared. James Harden will play his first game in the New Jersey Nets throwbacks, the 1991 sky blue throwbacks. I was so pumped to see Harden in that jersey. Like, people made the joke about, the fat suit. You had a couple good tweets that you got off about him looking a lot slimmer all of a sudden. And man, the difference between watching James Harden with the Rockets, looks like he didn't want to be out there. Looked like, he was being forced to play, didn't want to play. In the press conferences, he's just got no emotion. He's lifeless. Boom. Gets traded to a place he wants to be, Brooklyn. He's happy again. Let's talk about this Magic game. I'll pass it to Hudson so I can get my notes and look at the box score.
Yeah, I mean, let's take it from the beginning. And in that first quarter, we were all looking like, what impression is James Harden going to make on this team? And the impression was really, he's here to win. He's here to be selfless. And he came out and he didn't even score his first points for a while. He barely took any shots in that first quarter. He was just passing. He had more, I think he had more assists, rebounds, and steals in that first quarter than he did points. And it's just, that's what we're getting from this guy. It's not just scoring. That narrative that James Harden doesn't play defense or is just a scorer, doesn't pass. Like, that's such an old wash narrative that that was like the last time that was a thing was in like 2015. Like, we're getting fully complete all NBA player James Harden, recently an MVP, won all these scoring titles, all these things. You know who you're getting in James Harden. And he brought it, to the highest extent. And he drops a debut 30-point triple-double with the Nets. And obviously that's the first time that's happened. And man, what a way to make a first impression. What a way to do all that. But at the same time, we have KD dropping the most silent 42 points I think anyone's ever seen anyone drop. Everyone's watching James Harden, and KD casually just dropping 40 plus. Like, that's what makes this team so dangerous. We have two of the top 5 players in the NBA on the court. You can't cover both of them. And, you talk about can't cover both of them. That means you certainly can't cover the secondary options. Joe Harris comes in 17 points. And we saw that again in the Bucks game last night. he's just hitting everything because he's taking shots with nobody around him. This is like the 3-point contest. This is like practice. He is just so wide open. It's not even funny. And we had those contributing pieces. Even at the end of the game, we had James Harden, Kevin Durant on the floor. But who makes that game, that not game saving, but really game, that win solidifying shot? It's Bruce Brown in the corner. He hits that 3 clutch. And that's what's scary about this team, is that the Nets have it from all different angles. There's never a time on the court where you're not going to see someone who can take over the game or hit that game-winning shot, that important shot. And we saw that in both games, because we had Bruce Brown hitting the clutch shot in the game against the Magic, and then we had Joe Harris hitting another clutch shot in the game against the Bucks. Really, the shot that really brought the Nets to that victory, even though KD's shot was the last one. And it's just crazy to think about. Like, this team just doesn't really have many deficiencies. And, people will point to the defense or whatever about, what is hurting this team, what's helping this team. But I don't know. I think if the Nets can score and they can keep up this pace and they're going to bring in another all-NBA player, I don't see teams stopping them. And we even survived Nikola Vucevic absolutely bullying the Nets in the paint. I think he had 34 points, something close to a triple-double. He was insane. He was hitting every 3 that he took. But it almost was just like it didn't matter, because the Nets were just so able to confidently pull away and get this win in James Harden's debut again, without any practice, without any of that. And it was just a pleasure to watch. And, seeing James Harden in a Brooklyn Nets jersey was like a transcendent experience for me, and something I never thought would happen, something I never thought would even come close to happening, even when there was all these trade rumors this summer. And he's 100% of everything that's promised. And he's all that while probably only being, 70-75% of himself conditioning wise.
James Harden's got power, bro. Like, on the court and off the court. We saw his power in the press conference, 94 media members waiting 90 minutes for him to speak. But then we saw his power on the court immediately. I'm like, yes, he's playing in a Nets jersey. This is for us. 14 assists were the most ever by a player in their team debut. He is also the slap steal god. Watching him steal, like, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he had a couple steals in that game where I'm like, defense. He gets everybody involved. His court vision, like, there was a couple plays where you don't know what he's gonna do. Is he gonna lay it up, or is he gonna dish it out to someone for 3? Is he gonna no look pass it to Reggie? Like, he's got all that in his bag. And what I looked at it like is this, right? I played college football. I played high school football. I haven't played like competitive basketball since I was 13. It's a long story. I got this thing called Osgood-Schlatter's disease. I hit puberty and I had to stop playing basketball. And then when I came back from puberty, I lost my handle. But what I'm saying is I used to play like pickup games, and sometimes you're in a pickup game and you got to pick up an extra guy. Oh, your buddy's got to go home. Someone's got to leave. You pick up an extra guy off the side. The Nets did that. The Nets pick up an extra guy off the side, but he happens to be James Harden, and they're figuring it out all at once. You add James Harden to this team, they're immediately better, and they have to figure it out like a street ball game. Essentially, they are playing pickup. The Nets started off missing shots in both of these games, a lot of misses. The Nets started off 1 for 7 in the Magic game. There was a point where Harden collided with DJ on a screen. I'm like, these guys, it's going to take a little time to get their timing down. They got to figure this out on the fly. And they were, because you know what? You have KD out there. When you said KD had a silent 42, yeah, the team was literally hooping ball. Like, we hit 88% of our free throws, 45% of our 3-pointers. And that's in comparison to 30% for the Magic and 81% from or 30% 3-point percentage for the Magic and 81% free throws for the Magic. Like, we were just better than them. And we did enough to win the game. The Nets, like, just in the first half, I'm like, watching the first half of the Magic game and the Bucks game, I'm like, this is not fair. The gap between the talent that the Nets have with just KD and Harden on the court. Shout out to Uncle Jeff. Love what I'm getting out of Jeff Green. Shout out to DeAndre Jordan. He actually, like, we owe him some love. He actually looked better last night. I think you tweeted out, like, KD making DJ looked as good as the biggest contribution he could make. And watching the Nets play in that first game, I'm amazed. Bruce Brown had less minutes, but he comes up big, like you said, in the big moments. He has become our mascot. He has become like Theo Pinson, but actually gives us solid
can play
minutes.
Basketball.
But actually, we want him to get more minutes, way more minutes. In that game, last thing before we move on, there was a moment when Joe Harris went out. And I had a sinking feeling like when Spencer got hurt. We talk about the core four Nets. Shout out Mr. Burn Notice. John Sable came up with that term. Yankee fan, Nets fan. The core four Nets were Spencer Dinwiddie, Joe Harris, Karis LeVert, and Jared Allen. We lost Karis LeVert and Jared Allen. We lost Spencer Dinwiddie. I saw Joe Harris go down. I was scared, but Joe ended up coming back. And, Harden gets a triple-double in his first Nets game. KD drops 42 in their first Nets game. People are talking about, will KD be the same KD this year? KD's Achilles, you know how hard it is to come back from an Achilles? You'll never get the same KD. No, you'll get a better KD. You'll get a hungrier, happier KD. You'll get a KD that is averaging 30 points, and Kyrie is not there. He is going off. He doesn't miss much. He can create any kind of shot. There's no defense for this guy. Now let's go to the next game, last night's game against the Milwaukee Bucks. I got beef with the Bucks. I got beef with the Magic from the bubble. Nets fans, talking Nets fam, you remember our episodes during the bubble. We don't like the Magic. I think it was Owandu or one of those guys who got in Justin Anderson's face. Go back, look for the Justin Anderson episode of Talking Nets. He was our first guest on Talking Nets, episode 55, I think. I got beef with the Magic. We handled them. And then I also got beef with the Bucks. Hudson clipped up Dante Hall shoving Giannis last year, and then Justin Anderson dunking on Giannis's head. So the way the universe lines up, we got to face these two teams we got beef with in the East, but now they got to face us with KD and Harden. There was no KD and Harden in the bubble. This is a whole different ball game. And that game being on national television, I'm good on Marv, Albert, and Chris Webber and the TNT crew. Charles Barkley is a hater. The first thing he said after the game was, "Oh, well, this ain't going to last long because Kyrie ain't going to settle for only taking 10 shots." Shut your ass up, Chuck. You's a hater. Hudson, let's talk about the Milwaukee Bucks game. The favorites in the East the last 3 years meet the new Brooklyn Nets.
I mean, it's really just it's the young upstart team, going after the Kings that have been sitting at the top of the Eastern Conference these last 3 years. Maybe not in the playoffs, but definitely in the regular season. And that's when we're playing. It's the regular season. But it didn't feel like a regular season game. It didn't feel like the Nets were going on without practice, just trying to figure things out. It felt like a playoff game. It had that atmosphere. It had that grittiness, that grinded out time. There were times when the shots weren't falling, when KD, I think, was at one point, he was 4 of 12. He wasn't having his best shooting night. But, man, they just put it all together, and it was all about timely shots and contributions from every part of the team. Yes, we had KD go off. Yes, we had James Harden go off. But we also had Joe Harris put up 20. We had Jeff Green put up double digits. We had DeAndre Jordan put up double digits. I think that made it, five players with double digits. I think the whole starting lineup had double digits. And this team is a team. It's not just a collection of individuals like Stephen A. Smith likes to say. That narrative is gone. That narrative is washed. And, my favorite tweet that I sent out last night was, the narrative changed. It went from it's not going to work to it's unfair real quick. And, you hit on a lot of the points of the game, but man, it was just nice to watch. I mean, Joe Harris, 5 of 7 from 3. He's not going to miss with how open he is, but he wasn't just hitting threes. He was driving. He was in the lane. He was getting his free throws. He was taking his mid-range. He's Joey complete. And we saw that even we have our issues with this broadcast. I think we're not going to be on national TV for the rest of this month. Thank goodness we get to have our Yes Network crew back, and really just shout out to them. Obviously the Yes Network, friends of this podcast, really helped us out in the early days. The fact that we are so blessed as Nets fans to have Ian Eagle and Ryan Ruocco plus Sarah Kustok, Grady, Richard Jefferson is just crazy to think about. Like, Nets fans dread going on national TV because they're getting a massive decline in commentators. But like, put all that to the side, and we got a gritty playoff game that the Nets just went out there and straight up won. When it came to winning time, when it came to the fourth quarter, when the Bucks made it a game, they closed the gap. It was just down to our stars to make it happen. Joe Harris gets the wide open 3-pointer. He's not going to miss that. Definitely not in crunch time. And then James Harden, he gets an open look from 3. He misses it, but what's he do? He gets his own rebound, tosses it to KD. KD's not going to miss that. Top of the key, just takes the shot, dagger, slim reaper through the heart. End of the game. And man, it just feels right. It feels like the only way that game could have ended. You know, there were times when the Bucks were winning, when it was late in the game, and I was like, the Nets aren't going to lose this game. It never crossed my mind that the Nets were going to lose this game. It was always, okay, what is James Harden and Kevin Durant going to do to win us this game? And they did exactly what they needed to win. And it was just art on the basketball court. And man, it's going to be like that every game, and it's only going to get better because we're bringing back one of the greatest artists in the history of the NBA, Kyrie Irving, to this team. And man, it's only going to get better.
It is only going to get better because Kyrie, I don't know what people are thinking about Kyrie Irving. I know they all make jokes that he dribbles too much and he's ball dominant or whatever. Come on, putting Kyrie on this team makes this team ridiculous. It can't hurt this team at all. Joe Harris, from the beginning of the game to the end of the game, Broadway Joey, ready for the bright lights, like I always say. He knew that was national. He knew that was TNT coverage. Everybody was going to see the boy. He was cooking early and late. He had 20 points. Uncle Jeff, never washed, but he's not new. Uncle Jeff was turning back the clock. His 3 is pure. He had 14. I was a little surprised. Our guy, TLC, we're both TLC stans. I think he only had 3 shots. He went 0 for. He had 0. Bruce Brown, you the GOAT, bro. Bringing that sideline bench energy. He was doing a dance on the sideline that was giving me vibes of the old Nets from, I don't know, 3-4 years back. And I love to see it. I love to see KD and Harden against Giannis. You all know about the Giannis versus Harden words that were exchanged 2 years ago around All-Star. And we did a good job containing Giannis. Belo was back in town. Former Net, Brooke Lopez, Splash Mountain. He became Splash Mountain once he left Brooklyn. Giannis had 34. Middleton had 25. Drew Holiday, who all Nets fans have wanted for years, had 22. We held them off. Our bench only gave us 15 points. Didn't matter. We are getting guys like Reggie Perry good reps. We are getting guys like TLC good reps. Landry Shamet, I need more out of you, bro. We gave up the 19th pick for Landry Shamet. He should be coming off the bench, killing right now. I need more out of Landry Shamet. What else from this game as we're getting over the time limit here? It was good to see us switch back to the black jersey, switch the court, switch the swag up. DeAndre Jordan played 38 minutes in that game. That's too much, but sending love to DeAndre Jordan because I really like the clip of him coaching up Reggie Perry and some of the guys inside tracks. And he did play some good defense, had some good putbacks, some good boards. He's coming along. So, you know, the thing about the Nets, watching that national game and watching them beat the favorites in the East, it starts a lot of chatter. The whole league is on notice. We're going to get a lot of fans off this. Like I said, I think I sent you a voice note last night. Like, this is what happens, right? The Lakers had fans when they had Kobe and Shaq and they were national. The Warriors, we just saw go through this with Steph, a bunch of fans, Steph and KD. And now I think there's going to be a lot of new Nets fans because we have some of the best players in the world on this team. So let's enjoy it. It's a good time to be a Nets fan. And we're not done out here. We still have 3 open roster spots. Kenneth Faried has been rumored. There's some other names floating around out there. I'm more worried about the front court than the back court. Get us some bigs. Get us some guys that can come in and do the dirty work for this team. I know that Sean Marks is going to get it done, and Sean Marks we trust. I know that scary hours are upon us. Oh, and I wanted to talk about scary hours. Shout out to Fireside Nets. We're going to be on Fireside Nets next week. I was talking to the host of Fireside Nets. They've been obviously rocking with the Nets for a minute, and they asked about scary hours. So I made a little quick highlight video with James Harden's first game highlights and scary hours, because we keep hearing James Harden talk about that. And I put a little definition. But really, scary hours is a term that was made popular by Drake, Meek Mill, hip hop artists. And scary hours are just like this, right? You ever hear the phrase, nothing good happens after 2 a.m.? There's a phrase like that, nothing good happens that late in the night. Those are scary hours. Those are the hours that people are sleeping. And I think it's just James Harden saying, while the league is sleeping, we're working, and it's going to get scary out here for y'all. The league is on notice. It's getting spooky. Talking Nets fam, appreciate you guys rocking with us. It's been a hell of a week, 2 weeks, and we've got a lot more to go. Hudson, you got any closing remarks before I send us off?
Man, just be excited. Be able to enjoy what is really going to be the greatest show in basketball maybe the league has ever seen for these next couple years. And every game, every minute that they play, just know it's not guaranteed. We put in all the work to get it here. It didn't just happen. People weren't just coming to Brooklyn, but they are now. And man, it's just a lot of fun. And I'm just going to rock with it. And I think you all should too, just for as long as it can.
Yeah, the team put in work, and so did Hudson and I. There were plenty of nights that we were working on this show. We were working on the social media. We were just grinding, trying to build our Talking Nets brand when it was quiet for us, when there wasn't that much energy or attention around the Nets. And now that there is, we've already built to this point. We're just going to keep going. So make sure you follow us. Make sure you follow us at Talking Nets on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can follow me at Keith McPherson. Hudson Flynn, where can they follow you?
They can follow me at Hudson Flynn _ but follow Talking Nets, man.
Talking Nets.
I put all of my energy into at Talking Nets, especially on the Twitter. We're about to hit 4K on the Talking Nets Twitter. The Instagram, I believe, hit 1,300 just now. And man, just keep rocking with us. We're going to keep putting out content. We're the only Nets account on Instagram, on Twitter that does what we do. And if you're looking for your Nets content, you know where to go.
It's a 2-man game. Hudson and I are running the league with a little 2-man game. I make videos. I edit videos. I even did a mini breakdown that did well. Now the Harden Scary Hour video is doing well. I let Hudson run the Twitter. He's come a long way from I remember last year when Kobe died, I was talking to you about how we got to approach this on Twitter and how to talk, to now the growth that you've, gone through in a year is amazing. You're crushing it. So I love to see you doing your thing. Tell somebody to listen to Talking Nets. Send this link to a friend. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Keith, Hudson, these guys are the best guys out talking about the Nets right now. They got funny memes, gifs, content, and they're good on the pod. We need subscriptions. We need you to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. We've got no reviews to read today, but we do got one voicemail, and I'll play the voicemail, and we don't have to respond to it. If you want to be on this show, you want your voice to be heard, call the voicemail. It's 201-870-0461. And here's the random voicemail we got after the game last night.
Yo, this is fresh off the Bucks win. I'm on one right now. We're the team to beat in the East. If you asked me back in 2012 if we would have had Kyrie, Harden, and KD, I would have said no way. Man, this is so exciting. Let's go!
He didn't leave his name, but that dude's voice sound like Blake Snell. Call the voicemail and you can get on the pod. Man, it's a hell of a time. We ran probably 10 minutes over, but that's the excitement out here. That's just what it is. There's a lot to talk about, and Phil will be back. The next 2 games are against the Cavs, so we got a back-to-back against the Cavs, and then we got another game this weekend. So we'll either be back on Sunday or Monday after the next 3 games, and that's all we've got. We'll see you on Twitter. We'll see you on Instagram. Once again, tell a friend to tell a friend. Let's go Nets. Brooklyn.
We go hard, go